Let's talk about impactful communication mastery. Anything that's in your throat center is going to be your way of authentically communicating. So some people have more communication consistencies than others. When it comes to the impact of your throat, this is where we look at from the surface, whatever traits that are there. So impact, we think of energy. So which are the voices that are pointing at energy, even if you don't have them consistently defined? We see the 20, the 45, the 12, and the 35. Okay. So if you have, let's say, a hanging 35, I'm thinking of Veronica's design because she's on an undefined throat, then we know that that voice has a potential for powerful impact. However, it has to come through operating in alignment, in response. Then she can encourage the other person to be able to make it through that crisis, whatever it is that she's advising or coaching them on, consulting with them on. Now, the way that you speak, if you are speaking from Saturn, it's going to sound very different than the moon, very different than Venus, very different than Mars, very different than expansive Jupiter, right? All of those planetary life aspects have a different flavor or feeling, you could say, a felt sense in the body when they're speaking. So sometimes, obviously we're all cyclical. There's always a pattern. It's an off and on thing. Everybody has their own way. But one of the things I'm going to show you today is one of the secret things that you may not have encountered in your training, because obviously that's where I like to give you something new, relative to how you're here to communicate. So if we look at all of these traits down here, whoops, there goes my camera. I might be crooked, sorry about that. If we look at all those traits that are there, what you're looking at are ways of communicating that are about the civilizing effect of our voice. Our voice has a civilizing effect. Not only do we speak in terms of language for communication, but also to manifest or to have a metamorphosis move through us. So there are two kinds of speakers, those that are defined and those that are open. Obvious, but when it comes to the fixedness of the style of communication, the speaking or acting of the communication, if you start to look at the frequency field of what those planetary aspects are speaking about and to in your voice, you're going to get a different flavor or sense of it. So right back there, I want you to take a look this week. This is your homework assignment. Take a look at which of those planets are actually speaking. Which ones are communicating in the throat? Okay, that's the first step. In the throat, what is actually being communicated? Now, there's more than that. When we look at the throat center, there's also expression traits down here. Okay, the 26 and the 40, they're expression mechanisms. So the control or the manipulation of energy, memory, awareness. Okay, the tribal control. They're all control mechanisms, the heart center is, not just the 21. So if it had a voice, what would it say? Relative to the 40, it would say, no, this is denial. Okay, this is about no, buck stops here. With the 26, what would it say? It would be communicating or controlling the memory. And so it can say, how do I want to language this? It would be about the best, being the best relative to we. Okay, so no, we won't do this, or yes, we will because it'll be the best for us or for me. If you have somebody who's defined in the ego, it's very much about the I. Okay, I. So I competitive, I control, I deny, I am the best. Those are also expression kinds of frequency fields, if you will. Okay, so we're going to focus on those two functions. Obviously, if you look at charts, so I'm going to go to charts real quick to show you what I mean. If you look at charts, the next place that you're going to go, your homework assignment, is communication and thinking. I'm going to do mine because I want you to do your own. Look at what is it that's actually communicating through the mental construct, your Mercury, mine's conjunct with Mars, communication and thinking, as well as your unconscious communication. Now, this right here is the thing that you may not have yet encountered. I want you to go look at where is your communication on the unconscious side of your body graph, and what is it actually saying to you, all of us? And how can you hear it? How can you feel into the flavor of it, the sense of it, the communication of your voice? When I say impactful communication, this is about me aligning you to your unconscious, which is very hard to recognize unless somebody shines a spotlight on it. And you hear me oftentimes saying, Laveena only has one first line. Here it is. It's in a format energy. So that means it's very powerful as far as it's a power activation, because all of the traits in the undefined energy resource is power. And so you're going to look at that, whatever it happens to be, and see where is the power behind your voice, the frequency of your voice. This is frequency. Everything on the unconscious, the body side, the voice is how it actually shows up. So that being said, two things you're going to analyze. Again, look at what planetary activation. So it's really easy to do if you just hover over and we go, here's Laveena's voices, the communication voices. So we see we have multiple Jupiters, we have a judge in there, and we also have the grounding. Marry that to the communication and thinking of the mind merged with the focus of the voice over here, the power behind the voice. And now we can see what your impactful communication is about. Okay, so that's the research part. Third thing you're going to do, so if it's right for you, you can see I don't have the 26 or 40, I have a 51. But that's more of an internal process. This is an internal process. This is part of your outer authority. So you can see Laveena's powerful, efficient use of language communicated when it comes to recognition and formal invitation is going to expand upon what she's inspired about in order to fulfill her life's work, which is contagiating you with her mental way of looking or style of speaking, way of framing things. I'm a teacher by nature, okay, with a very profound step-by-step focus. So long as it'll feel like I'm on track, like I'm lit up. You know, if I'm at all dysregulated emotionally, that will cloud everything else in here. You won't get the clear and crystallization of Laveena's focus. Unconscious drive is one of the things that's creating the inspirational aspect there. You'll get a chaotic mess of confusion and emotional overload or overwhelm. Okay, so everything operates in a binary. What you're going to do is you're going to take all of those communication activations that I'm framing for you, just go over your chart and highlight them. Okay, so you're going to find your chart, highlight them, and you're going to keynote your voice in combination. So this is your communication, remember, and manifestation or metamorphosis. Keynote this voice in context. So you have to take the channel, if there is a channel, strength. You have to take the strength keynotes, because what is actually creating in Naraya's case, I know she knows how to do this, so I feel comfortable looking at it with her because I'm not doing her homework for her. The drive, conscious drive here, is going to be part of the power potential, but it's moon. It waxes and wanes. So what I've had people do is actually, if you're a visual person, either print out your body graph and write out the keynotes of the planet, look at the planetary aspects. Hey, what is the moon? Go look in your definitive book. Write some of those keynote phrases out, and now you're going to start to get a real good snapshot of what your voice is. Combine that with the communication, and if you have anything particularly in the 40 or 26, ego I, ego I, because those are the expression mechanisms. And I'll go back here and show you visually. Okay, your voice. All right. So Ra says that it's very important for anyone to understand where their voice comes from, where their words come from, because they don't just come from your mind. The only voices that come from mind, like mechanically, are here. And then inside of your head, thinking about yourself, mind has a spokesperson for all the open functions inside your ajna. That's why you can remember something from the past and start to get emotionally touched, you could say, or moved, if you will. So the thing that we want to look at with the voice is that the voice has a very special way that it is going to frequency-wise show up, and that's the unconscious that I want you to take a look at. So if the first task that I gave you, that first task of looking at, okay, what's in the throat, what's in the heart, especially the 26, marrying all those keynotes together, getting a feel, keynoting. Imagine yourself as a third person. You're keynoting for this third person. If you need help with this, partner with somebody else in class for this week and see if you can keynote each other or run by each other to help you. And then that ability to own your voice. That's what I want for you this week. Own the power behind your voice, the way that the voice is designed to express. Now, in the beginning of the human design experiment, if you're not operating in alignment, the voice could be disempowered. It'll sound different between the initial deconditioning engagement, your first analysis, versus 7 or 10 years from then. Because if you are in the deconditioning experiment, your frequency of your physical form changes. Therefore, the voice that comes out of you is also going to change. And you can watch this. Now we're going to go deeper. That was enough. That's enough. Okay. You do not have to go any deeper. When we look at communicating with each other, I'm going to read something from Ra for you here. I just got to go get my notes because he wants us to understand something very deep. And you know me, I always like the deep stuff from Ra. If I could just, here we go. Okay. I want you, he says, to begin to understand that when we are communicating with each other, and all of this is about communication, when we're communicating with each other, that it's the frame and the quality of the voice, not the words. It's the quality of the voice. The words are secondary. It's the quality, end quote. So if we look at your voice, this is a deeper layer now. We look at your voice and we go and find on your unconscious core essence, grounding and balance, the color underneath the line quality. You're going to see that there's a number there, a color number. In the environment, there's a color number. We were just looking at Eva's chart. She's got a 1 there. She's got a 1 in both. So then we can see the body is the sun, earth, core essence, grounding, and balance. The environment is how that person relates to or is nourished by the outside world. So then we can take those colors and look at the voice and see if the color of the voice, so the unconscious Mercury, is resonant or harmonic or dissonant. Okay, dissonant means they're not the same. Obviously, you can see with Laveena's voice, I have a 9, focus, 1, detail, 4. Okay, the 4 simply stands for a resonance principle. It doesn't have a value. I can't say mountains here, not really. However, what I have noticed, it's an unconscious, hanging, dormant activation. Look at the environment. The environment is 4. I'm a mountains person, like Naraya. So if I speak from up on the mountaintop and take the high road and stay away from getting down in the valley and gossiping, that is a repeating pattern from the fact that I'm a personal perspective and distracted by power, by politics, by who's winning and who's losing. So if you hear Laveena start to gossip and she starts to get bitter, automatic signpost, off track, okay? So there are people in your life that will condition you, guaranteed. You sit with them, now all of a sudden they're talking about this, so-and-so did such and such, and now I'm talking about this. Oh my God, so-and-so did such and such. And now I'm getting all riled in my body. I'm getting heated up. Remember how Laveena is a cold thirst person? I'm not a hot person. The minute my temperature starts to rise and I get angsty or uncomfortable, I know I'm transferred. I know I'm operating off track. So then if I'm aware of that, how it feels in my body, I'm a feeling cognition, I can take a deep breath. No choice. With this person, I know I get distracted. It gets distorted. It's not fun. Therefore, I let go. Now I'm going to tell you a little story. Darshana is a third color. Oh, there we go. The camera righted itself. I have a mat under my feet and it moved the tripod. Sorry about that. It's 9 o'clock. We've been going all day out and about. You know, we're both mountain people. So I'm taking her to all my favorite mountain places. And that evening, my husband and her are exactly opposite on the political spectrum. So they have he's a confrontation. He gets really riled up. And so then she's wanting to decompress and talk about political stuff with me. I'm sitting in a chair and she's starting to talk about political stuff. And I can feel myself getting heavier and heavier. And then all of a sudden I'm laying down horizontally in this, up and down leather chair. I'm laying down with my feet on the footstool, just like completely plastered, going, what happened here? Because she's talking about politics, which is my distraction, not my thing, not my trip, my everything inside of me. Like the wind's out of my sails, I go completely flat. And then she notices what's going on and she says, oh, I'm sorry. And she changes the subject. And then I start to sit upright again. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just being present with this woman in my house, talking story and having fun. Okay, having fun once I get my energy back. And then the next day she goes, I'm really sorry about what happened last night. And I'm like, oh no, that's okay. It's totally fine. It was something to be aware of. It's something to watch. I don't take it personally that she, transfers me. It's her design. And this is the quality of your consciousness or the framing of the power behind your awareness when you can come from an authentic place and recognize what's going on, that it's not personal. It's just a mechanical thing. Okay. So now back to the voice. In that moment, talking with her, I could say, it's not my thing. I really don't study. I don't know. Yes, he's into whatever the case may be. But beyond that, I don't know, And then what we noticed in talking about it the next day was that she was going into her transference and taking this subject all personal. And that's where she was coming from. So her personal perspective on the process and the awareness that came. This is the power that you can have with your voice if you're coming from an authentic place. Here, the environment, you can see the body is resonant with taking the higher road with the voice, the quality of the voice. This means no gossiping. This means no backbiting. I've been learning about that through the current transit. Too much detail. We won't go into that. Current transit as in my current transit, my Uranus opposition. So I'm hopeful that that right there is enough food for thought for all of you to start to play with this week. And today, what questions you have, we're looking at it together, all of the charts. What questions you have are more of a mechanical nature. You might have a recognition right now that you want to language or frame with us, but this is where I want to stop my little, one more piece here. I'm going to give you this presentation, and that way you can go through it on your own time, along with the recording, okay? So you're going to get the recording of me training on this right here, because this right here, the keynotes that you're going to use in your homework assignment are going to help you frame or recognize whether you're going to write it out ahead of time or just like your sentences, or just put the labels, all the detail, make a note, all the details of all the keynotes, just put it on a piece of paper and contemplate that this week and listen for your voice. Listen for where it's coming from. Listen for what grounds you, Earth. Listen for what moves you, pulls on you, waxes and wanes in you, Moon. Listen for where you expand or teach, Jupiter. Listen for the quality of your voice, unconscious communication and thinking. Listen for the power that maybe is connected to that voice. Staying power, Saturn, or discipline. Constriction or restriction, Saturn. You're looking at Mars, you're looking at an immature energy dynamics. Oh, we might have said too much too soon, or too little, too late, or whatever the case may be. Why is that? Look at your voice. This is what I want you to look at. So I saw a hand raise. Naraya, would you like to share your awarenesses?
Well, I can save my awarenesses for later, but I have a mechanical question that
Okay.
I want to hear your take on.
Hmm.
Okay, so if you go to mine,
Hmm.
my voices are both North Node voices. And
Hmm.
one is on my Earth too.
Hmm.
Would you say that in a circumstance like this, that while I may notice my voices coming out in the leadership because where they're at, after I hit my Uranus opposition, it will become more powerful or more prevalent?
More, you're going to be more immersed in it. Like it's just more in your face. It's more present. You're still that, because if we imagine and we remember that time is an illusion, these physical vehicles actually experience time in a linear fashion, but it's all now. Your whole life, when you were born, that moment, it's unpacked over time, but it's still there. It's still a part of you. If the future North Node was not a part of what you are, then half of the people wouldn't have, or how, I don't know how many, but many people wouldn't have their authoritative process or their strength there. So just, it's still there, but your experience of it and the people, remember, nodes are karmic developmental, they're people. The people that come into your life are going to be that or resonate with that. They are going to have that. And so that's where you can come in and actually have an attunement to what it is that you're seeing, personality conscious side, or where it is that you're being, and speak with that voice that they carry, because this is part of what you resonate to. Does that help?
Yeah, yep. It expanded on what my thoughts were on it. I see this a
Mm-hmm.
lot actually with
Mm-hmm.
some people, because there's a lot of people my age that were born around that time. I've noticed I'm coming into contact with. So
There
I'm
you
kind of
go.
observing them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I can't wait till we share with this later on because I know we've already talked about my unconscious communication, my frequency of my voice before. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
All right.
yeah. This is a
Thanks.
nice one to be aware of, especially because anything that we can do to help the witness, your passenger consciousness, self-recognize is going to be helpful. Okay, so one of the things is, I'm just going to point it out to you so you can find where it is. Remember, it's hard to see sometimes, but there's the 2. So that's the small little number after the line quality. There's the 4, small little number after the line quality. 1 and 4 are harmonic. 1 and 2 are dissonant. So then the emphasis comes, what I want you to see, is it true? I'm asking it to you as a question. Is it true that your voice, all of you, okay, so I'm just using Noraya's chart as an example, but all of you, is it true that your voice changes depending on the topic or the place? Okay, the topic or the place, the people. This is something that Noraya, if you could please share your experience of it, your story, was the first person to recognize that in me. And I had no idea until she brought it to my attention. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do. I
Okay, would you
absolutely.
like to share?
Okay. So I have a unique experience, everyone, with Laveena. Most people come to her through YouTube and they've heard her talk before. Not me. Not me at all. I found her website and I went, and when I was clear that I wanted to take classes, I messaged her back and forth by written. And I didn't actually get to hear her voice till my very first OID class.
Whoa,
Yeah. And I had no idea. I didn't even know really what you looked like. I was kind of blown away because you're this tiny little girl. I was like,
I am
whoa.
tiny. Everybody's like,
And
what? You're so tiny.
and your website was so robust.
Hmm.
So yeah. So I went into it like that. And so the voice that I heard then was 2019 voice. It wasn't until later on that I went back and listened to some YouTube channel that was older and I could tell the voice. I was like, okay, so her voice is definitely changing. But then every class I went into, I noticed your voice was changing. And it wasn't until I started auditing like previous classes, like the classes I had already taken, like went back and audited an LYD, that I noticed depending on who you're talking to, your voice is very, very different because it depends on who's in the class and what they need from you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then then I started listening to the BG5 webinar or the live things that you were doing in 2019. I remember listening to those and noticing that your voice sounded different then. So when I finally started BG5 classes, it was so drastically different to hear how you speak to the BG5 compared to how you speak to any of the human design side. There's this power, there's this influence, there's this, like, not necessarily puffing up, but you feel bigger. You feel huge and powerful when
authoritative.
Yeah, it's the authoritative. And like you really know, and like to the point, almost like seriousness. It's almost like a seriousness, and you want to make sure everybody gets it across because you want everybody to be successful in business. Whereas human design, it's more about waking people up to themselves. So it's just completely different. And it's still like that. I still, when you're talking to certain people that have questions, your voice completely morphs to whatever they need because you're a projector. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite wild.
It's an interesting thing. And there's the voice, the quality of the voice is affected by the energetics, right? So because this is in an undefined function, you can see there's so many different planetary activations there. Right there is another reason. Transit changes. Like Sean said, there's 63 and now I've got a headache. There's you just pay attention to. And so for me, when I'm listening to somebody, I can feel myself energetically focusing on them. And if that person is somebody I'm not familiar with or I don't know very well, it's and if they're brand new and it's really uncomfortable, it might take me some time to get used to their frequency and adapt, so much so that I can come from their place. So meet them where they're at and be able to attune to what they're saying. So thank you for the recognition, Mariah. Yeah.
There's one other thing too that I noticed that I can tell when your energy starts to get low, that it's just there's a slight thing in it that it's just a very little taste of it, but I can feel, it's like I can hear it, so therefore I can feel it. And I imagine that other people can feel that too.
Yeah.
And it almost makes me feel like I'm feeling what you're feeling.
Energy projector, emotional energy projector. You do the same thing probably, with the people in your life. One of the techniques that I've done relative to this, the voice, is especially for people who are open emotionally, like Sean. If there's something I'm feeling and it's really uncomfortable and I know it's coming across in a more harsh way, sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, you know what, because I'm personal, I'm personally feeling this, whatever it is. So I'm feeling kind of low energy, or I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable, upset. I label, okay? We label the energy, the emotion, the felt sense, because this is such a powerful projecting voice, projecting the emotions into the other. So for those who are non-emotional, if you're an emotional person working with a non-emotional person, or if you're advising an emotional manager who works with non-emotional clients, help that emotional manager recognize that just labeling the feeling rather than stuffing it is going to help so much mechanically in their relational dynamic, in their interactions with others. It's a real tried and true, verified experiential experiment that they can have and that you can facilitate for them. Give them a little assignment. Like I did with you today. This was very complex for you at your level. We wouldn't give that to them, obviously. They're not going to analyze their own chart. But just that basis of understanding, labeling the energy, the emotion. I'm feeling this. I own it because I feel it. I'm feeling this now. Okay. And taking the pressure off that person, because they're so used to unhealthy emotional people who project or express their energy, take it out on the non-emotional. And then the non-emotional is sitting there not knowing what they're doing, but processing the other person's emotions for them. And it hurts. And so what happens? We have lies, we have disconnects, we have uncomfortable feelings. And so if the person who's actually feeling and broadcasting that feeling could just go first and admit what's going on, it'll make this person feel so much better. And the communication will be much more clear. And so Sean is saying that's so funny because the open emotional system can be so aware of emotionally defined people's unfelt emotions. Exactly. You're processing it for them. You're processing it for them. Now, the felt sense, that the emotional person, they have to process their own emotions. They can't just stuff it. They stuff it. The person around them is going to be the one that feels it, right? So we know that mechanically. So here's Laveena in the not self or shadow. Back in the day, before got comfortable with being self and the emotions going up and down. Put the lid on it really tight until Mars, maturing energy, cannot hold on tightly to that. It'll explode at some point. The off gassing of the wave, you can see it goes up and then it just crashes. So in the unhealthy state, this one will like emotionally vomit the emotions in an attempt to off gas it, and used as a weapon is incredibly damaging. I mean, damaging to relationships, leaving jobs in a huff, any kind of emotional upset in relationship, you name it, the unhealthy emotional system, by compressing the wave, trying to hold it back, not expressing it in a healthful way, or, attempting to off gas by allowing themselves to force it or push it on somebody who's non-emotional. Most of the time, those kinds of relationships, they don't last because this one won't tolerate it and eventually will leave. It doesn't work. Okay. So thank you, Sean, for your recognition here. Would you like to share anything else about that topic?
Oh, don't get me going. Are you kidding me? That system is what made me a therapist. That system gave me absolute hell. It was a curse my entire life because I was not aware that I was picking up on everybody else's feelings around me, and that I was processing them like this brain processes everybody's ailments around you. And so I'm walking around being a filter for all the ailments physically and emotionally of the world around me, thinking that about 85% of it was mine. And as I got into my 30s and 40s, I started really differentiating out and going, I started figuring it out. Like after 2 or 3 years of working on something that clearly wasn't mine, and you can't go anywhere when you're working on the wrong thing that doesn't belong to you, I finally started figuring it out more intelligently, like something's wrong here with my approach. And I'm not seeing this stuff correctly. I'm not differentiating out where stuff is really coming from. And that's kind of really the core of all awareness, is putting things in the rightful place, seeing things through the correct perspective, that the puzzle pieces go together to form the right picture. And when I started getting that on track and getting that clarity of mind and somatic expression, mind and emotional quality, I started really, really getting in tune with, oh my God, 90% of what I'm picking up from the environment is not my own feeling. And so I don't need to process it. It's a waste of time. And it belongs to other people. And when I got that, oh, what a relief. What a huge relief. And then I could become really wise about detecting, because I've been doing this my whole life, just not knowing it, detecting where all these feelings were coming from, and detecting all the feelings that people are not feeling, that we're not aware of. And that's really scary, because we avoid a confrontation for that very reason. It's like, we don't want to go into confrontation with that emotional wave when you guys aren't even aware of what it's doing. So it's like, as long as you're aware, like you said, your communication is perfect. If you communicate to a non-emotional person, like, hey, I'm feeling this way, I'm not blaming you for it, of course, because if I feel this way and it's your fault, then we go through the roof, because we know it's not our fault. But when you communicate like, hey, I just want you to know, to take the pressure off you for feeling something that you think I'm not. I'm feeling it. I'm going through it. And oh my God, what a relief for us. What a relief. It's like, oh, thank God. You're taking responsibility for your own emotional engine there, so I don't have to. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because it's a huge weapon. I had a father and a brother who were both manifesting generators and both emotionally defined, and my mother and I were not. She was generative but not emotionally defined. So my mother and I were always like off in the corner trying to steer away from the incredible engine that these guys were running, and it's a formidable power. It really is, and it's meant for that, but it can be weaponized with unconscious. And this is where therapy comes in. It's like, hey, helping people to feel what's actually there so they can be honest about what their feeling state really is, and navigate their emotional awareness or emotional wave through awareness and through clarity, rather than just letting it fly all over the place. And it's like unleashing a bull in a china shop on the subtle. It's just like it's destroying everything in the path, and people have a clue. And then when you add projection on top of that, it's impossible. When people don't take responsibility and then blame someone who's not responsible, oh my God, that's an impossible thing. So Yeah, to diffuse it, your approach is brilliant. It's like, hey, I'm feeling this way. It's not your problem, but I want you to know. Like, okay, thanks,
Yeah.
God, you're safe. I can talk
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. My husband said he used to say I should wear the red hat when it's my period, so that all my students would just automatically know it's the red hat day. The day where we probably don't want to try and trigger Laveena. She's right close to crashing or something like that. But by taking ownership, by labeling, identifying, it really helps diffuse some of the bomb that could go off. Because see, you have your own experience with the triggering that happens. All non-emotional people do. And if we imagine like little feelers, little tentacles, these dormant hanging traits out into the emotional realm, this is what you're attuned to and you're learning about, and it's your internal framing of your mind's perspective. This is what that column is. So by attuning to what's going on out there, you're learning about emotional safety, emotional security, emotional well-being. And in that learning can also turn around and teach what makes a difference for these things with your clients. Yeah. And help them through. These are the two arms of the cross, one arm of the cross of confrontation. So the fact that your internal mind is focused on the crisis and conflict that one could have in the emotional realms or sensitive areas of vulnerability and relational dynamics, and your basic split, and you're an advisor, no wonder that you're in the realm that you're in, to empower people out of that hellish hellhole of thinking that it's your fault. The non-emotional person is not here to deal with blame, shame, fault, guilt, regret, any of that. That's all defined people have the need to deal with that because it's their day-to-day reality, particularly when they're not operating in a healthy state. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it. It's just it's one of those reframes that human design demonstrates perfectly as you go from being cursed in deep not self identification in a really, really problematic way that can really take you out of life and certainly out of your life path. And some miracle of fate or pain point is pushed where you turn it around and start developing the wisdom necessary to extract out of that not self-identification and actually become a source of information for people to do the same, which is what I do. I help people feel their feelings and acknowledge their feelings so their kids stop having to be buried by them, And it's a very volatile, conflicting, crisis-based process all the time because there's so much volatility in that emotional realm that people are not aware of or not wanting to even know it's there. And that's the real process. Like, well, that really comes down to what therapy is all about in that sense of it is there. I sense it's there. If you don't want to admit it's there, then we're kind of in an impasse and your kids are going to suffer from it. So it's like helping it tease out in a way that you can bring awareness to it if people are willing to become aware of it being there. And because there's so much guilt and shame around that, that's kind of the problem that's hiding, and the projection that defends it. So it's an interesting process to turn the whole thing around and to experience that. It's cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And the current day and age that we're in, we're all experiencing not metamorphosis, the mutation of the solar plexus, the energetics that are there. So there is an opportunity here for anybody that's sensitive enough to pay attention and to listen to and to attune, particularly if you're working with younger generations. So I'm thinking of Veronica too about this. The younger kids coming in, they have a very different psychological focus or makeup, right, than we do. When Darshan and I were running around Sedona talking story, we noticed the plutonic generational themes that there generally tends to be an attunement from one generation to skip the plutonic generation that's next to them and go to the next one. So let's take a look at a mandala and I'll show you what I mean physically. Okay. So you're looking at, this is where Laveena's truth is. It's right here. Okay. So I'm of the Libra generation, and then we have Scorpio, and then we have Sag. Okay. So I personally would be able to attune more to these, and I have quite a few of these Sagittarian kids in my programs, that is their plutonic generational theme, that they come in and they're attuned to me as a teacher. It usually skips a generation. So in our conversations about that, we recognized that this might be something that we want to bring to the populace, our general awareness, for you to market your services. So secondary thing is, if it's true that our plutonic, remember this is our in lifelong truth transformation psychological bent, you could say, our depth of what it is that we're here to offer to the world. If it's true, and you can find that you have a nice relationship with, now the body graph, obviously, if there's going to be two Plutos, your Pluto with another Pluto, I haven't looked at that yet, but we could see a plutonic that's Scorpio, and that's still Sag. So that might be a really, it might be an actual, oof, no, too deep, can't do that. That kind of thing that I haven't looked at yet. But if it's true that you could look at this with your clients, because this is unprocessed, we just talked about it, I think on Monday. What you could do then is just take a look at what it is that you are offering. You always hear Laveena talking about, I'm bringing you depth of solutions, right? I go deep into the system of knowledge, logic, of Ra's knowledge. Okay, and then I bring forth something practical. What's the most practical thing I can universalize to you as a solution to the problems that you're facing when it comes to developing your talents or your gifts in my specialty human design system? We look to what is it that the next, if you're going forwards, okay, if you're targeting forward because you want to work with the younger generation, you could do the same thing, by the way. I'm not going to go there, but you could go backwards. If you were younger and you want to go up, obviously that has to be correct for you. You're not going to try and be a parental coach if you're not a parent yet and you're very young and you've got, that kind of stuff doesn't work. But as long as the context remains that you can be an expert, let's say, let's put you on, if you're one of these people, plutonic generation, that your mastery is AI and you're teaching those like me, my age, AI, because that's your trip. Now we can see, okay, what is it within the generational themes? So this goes beyond, I'm just targeting the 44s to 55s. No, I'm targeting these people with this depth of psychological and physiological makeup, potentially. This is them. It helps you identify whole swaths of humanity that you are here to serve. And I haven't looked at specifically any deeper than that. Okay, thank you, Naraya. All right, and that was another thought process that I had that I excitedly wanted to share with all of you. So I'm just going to go over everybody's charts real quick to ensure that we're clear. Okay, so 6 and the 2, dissonant. Okay, dissonant. 6 and the 1, dissonant. So what does that mean? Biologically speaking, the environmental and the physiological makeup, environmental and physiological makeup, when it comes to Sean's voice, it's a little bit more difficult for him to communicate. Now, I'm not saying that this is bad, because remember, every design is perfectly designed. But if you're having trouble coming across because you're feeling like your voice is not able to be supported, with certain people, it would be, and we see that that's a 6. So the 6 in the other is going to resonate. Your 6, Sean, as a voice, is going to resonate to their 6. So whether they're a 6 line or a 6 color, your voice is going to come across much stronger. And here's the point, what I wanted to show you. The power behind your voice, the voice comes across much stronger with those who have 6, color or line. For me, 4s. I always wondered, why is it that I get a lot of 4s? I only have 1/4 line. Now, why do I get a lot of 4s? Oh, environment, lots of mountain people in my practice. And here's another 4. They resonate, or they get where I'm coming from because my voice is shared with them, I'll say. Yeah, supported, different keynote. So let's look at Mandy. And Mandy, we can see second quality. So harmonic, it's shared logically better, you could say, with people on the logical path framework who have 2s or 5s. This is supported. Yeah, not talking about circuitry now. I'm just saying that the voice carries further or is more impactful because of that resonance. Especially, we see that she's got a 2. So resonant, harmonic. So then what we know is it's very important that Mandy is in the right place, especially with the right people. Yeah, in the right place, right people, but also that her body is processing things correctly, her physiological makeup, in order for that voice to be powerful. You see that making sense? I know, I love this stuff, you guys. I love it, love it, love it. Let's look at Kyle. Kyle's got a 6, a 1, and a 5. So then we know it's like Sean. Okay, we know that there's a challenge there. Eva, a 1, and a 5. As far as the communication, 1 and 1, totally fine, right? Thank you, my love. Okay, so we are looking at 1, 1, 5, dissonant voice. Yeah, the voice is dissonant. The line quality, harmonic, but underneath. So we're looking at the power underneath the quality of the voice. So really emphasize this. It's the quality of the voice, not the words that you use, but the quality of the voice. The quality of the voice changes. The voice carries the aura. Remember, this is aura. The body is the life. So when the aura changes, the voice changes, the voice embodying its beingness, you could say with this one, yeah? Embodying its frequency. Different quality to the voice with people who are 5s. Okay, 6 and 2 and 3 with Amy. So then we can see that the 3 and the 6, we have harmonic. Okay, we have a harmonic relationship. So then we know the environment is the one that we have. Oh, wait a minute. Did I do that right? Yeah. Environment is the one that we have a little bit of a challenge there. Sachiko, you've got a 2, a 3, and a 5. So that 2 is resonant to the 5. Now, this might seem a little bit overwhelming, and it's not something that you have to do with your clients. Again, I wouldn't recommend it because you don't need to. This is about you getting in touch and aligned with your voice, watching as it changes over time, recognizing where the power is, what situation, what context. And there's the 2 and 5. Okay, your physiological makeup. Very helpful for the examples. Yeah. You want to, I'm not analyzing at this point. I'm just pointing it out so that you can start to experiment with it and take note of it. So with Veronica, we see the 2. Aha, it is resonant. 2 and 2 is resonant, exactly the same as resonant. And then it's dissonant with the brain body system. So this is your brain. Every time I say that, this is your brain on drugs. Can you tell I was raised in the 80s? This is your brain body system. And then the 2 here is the environment. So the environment being correct, the environment being right for you. Now you have more power in your voice. Okay. Just paying attention, being aware. So is it true, Laveena might wonder, is it true that when your brain body system, because this is your brain body system, is not able to be online? So like I was saying before, my example, when I get heated up, I'm cold thirst. I'm not here to heat people up. I'm here to cool everybody down. So if I get heated up by what my mind perceives to be external circumstances, something I'm out of control of, and so in the past, the mind thinking it was their fault, when really, if I can take ownership of I'm feeling this, if I label the feeling, then I too can go through that process of recognition and awareness rather than just stuffing. I'm not feeling anything. No, everything's fine. And then boom. Okay. So that brain body system, definitely, this is where we have a little bit more challenge when the brain body system is offline. I'm hot, I'm heated, I'm overwhelmed emotionally. I can't even think or see straight when I'm overwhelmed emotionally. You will notice the communication is way off when I'm overwhelmed emotionally. That's why I do my best. So everybody, if you're emotional especially, just let go of anything that's bothering you if you can, or at least if you're going into a very important conversation, you label it. This is what's going on. It's not about you. If you feel anything weird vibe coming off of me right now, going through a rough time right now. A dog died, that kind of thing. Healthy excuses is what I used to call them. Today is not a really great day. I would do that a lot in the beginning because I was still in the throes of deconditioning. If it was a bad day, I'd tell my client, today's not a great day because this is going on in my life. Would it be okay if we push it off till tomorrow? Or do you have the same time next week? That kind of thing. by being honest and in integrity with how you feel, rather than here's what tends to happen in this mind anyway. I don't know how it is for anybody else, but this personal perspective person, when I'm on, if anything's distracting, so like yesterday when I was teaching, the dogs came on because somebody was delivering. And with the dogs here, I kept talking and I tried to get somebody's attention to go take care of the dogs. When in reality, if I had thought of like a real sensitive sound person, like Mari Smith, who's very sensitive to sound, if I'd have thought of her, I would have immediately say, just a moment, everybody. Pause, silence everything. Go make sure those dogs are taken care of, instead of hearing the dogs barking several. So instead of the dogs of the emotional system barking and just trying to pretend that they're not there, they're not barking. No, I'm just going to keep talking. Consideration for labeling what's happening here now. The ability to accept here and now, label it, identify it, move with it, source into it. If it needs to be taken care of, take care of it, not ignoring it. And that's what tends to happen with the unhealthy emotional system. It'll either get compressed and repressed, or it will explode. And obviously, in the explosions case, I'm just going to Mandy because she's got 2 Mars in a channel that expresses the emotional system. How incredibly damaging that can be if we are not sourced into or well resourced into our own emotional intelligence. So the emotional intelligence being fixed, is there communication? Look at the communication. Where is the communication at? This might be harder for you to do. I'm easier to do of something I recognize. It's my outer authority, my communication, you see. This is outer authority, this column right here. So you're hearing me teach on that. It's part of my wisdom that I give to you, experiential process that I give to you. Russ says, all the wisdom is in the openness. Yes, and we can mature. And this is what I'm speaking to. Okay, so that's, this is interesting. I have some new people joining, and we are at the end of our class for today. So those of you who are ready to leave, I know Sean had to go. See you. Take care. Ibrahim and Mandy just joining. I apologize. I forgot to let the Institute know that the rest of the year, or maybe I did and they just didn't change it. The rest of the year needed to change, at least this semester anyway. So I'll stay because it's nice to see you all. And I'll send the recording. You can catch up with the recording. Those of you who can't stay, you're welcome to stay because I would love to continue our conversation. And I see that, Veronica, you have a question. Would you like to ask?
I would, yes. Oh my gosh, Laveena, you always blow my mind every time we have this session. So yeah, your voice continually resonates for me. Like I learn so much from you just listening to you. And it just, you need to know like how much that inspires and motivates me to want to keep learning. So I'm so drawn to how you talk about it. So yeah, it's awesome. I am curious when you were saying like, okay, so I'm resonant, like my voice is resonant with the environment, but it's dissonant with my brain body. For me, does that have to do with what you mentioned recently, that if I essentially go against my gut, like as part of my design, and then maybe like kind of engage or say something or agree to something that's not right for me, that the possibility of kind of what can happen there? I don't feel like I'm really asking this well at all. So
I hear you. Is it related to the recognition I had? I remember the feeling of it. I can't remember what I said, but I had some kind of recognition for you in the variable class at some point where I could feel this energy coming through, and I was reassuring you and trying to comfort you away from the thing that you're doing that's creating a fracture, it felt like, inside of you.
Yeah.
That you were maybe not able to identify or label quite yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yes. I mean, I think that's what I'm remembering. And I wasn't sure if that was kind of connected with this idea of my communication being not in harmony with my brain body.
Right. Okay. So let me re-explain, particularly for Mandy and Ibrahim, who just joined us. And let's see. Yeah, they're still here. Yes. Okay. So that hopefully I can get it more clearly into context, because I might not have done a very good job of explaining it at the beginning. And I always learn when I explain too. So let's see if we can source into what I want to show you here. For just a moment, I'm going to go back here. Okay. So the homework assignment is to analyze your voices. And I gave you this. I'm going to send a video recording. And the thing that I'm focusing on now is an advanced technique. What the title of today's class is, I can't even remember what I labeled it, something about the power in your BG5 consulting voice, your voice, okay, the power in your voice. So it's not about the words that we use, it's the quality of the voice. The words are secondary, straight from raw. Now let's look at where the quality of the voice comes from. The quality of the voice comes from your unconscious communication and thinking. Okay, so that is your Mercury. Yeah, Mercury being able to be your quality of your voice. So wherever your voice is, that's one of the things you're going to take a look at and process. For you, Veronica, it might take some time to process this because the wide split, yeah? So, or the, are you a wide split? I think you are, yeah, like me?
Very wide.
Yeah. Wide, very wide split. Yeah, that makes a difference in one's assimilation. So usually what happens is you learn something, okay, now I want you to watch for it and notice. That's why I framed it as a question. Is it true that? And so see the body and the environment. I'm going to go write that over and explain it instead of doing it again on this with mine. I'm going to go look at yours and we'll work through this together and see if this helps. I won't be able to do it for everybody, but hopefully this week will help you see if it's true. Okay, so we're gonna explore together. We're gonna see if it's true. If we take a look at this brain body system, this is the, let me put it right here, body, okay? And this right here is the environment. It's long, it's going over, oh well. So you get it, environment. Now we see that we have, and so this is the control panel up here, okay? The body's control panel. And down here is the magic square, the physiological makeup, okay? And we're just ignoring this right here for now. We're just working with the body. We're looking at the two. These are all the colors right after the little line quality. It's a little bit smaller. The two in you is resonant or exactly the same as the environment. So that means then the environment is supporting the quality of your voice. So long as your body is in the right environment, which for you, just double checking to make sure, markets, internal, you're bringing people to you, the smell is right? Mm-hmm. Then the quality of your voice is strong. Remember how you told me that story of you went to a place and to check it out for renting it for your business and it smelled horrible.
Yeah.
If we imagine that you were like so desperate for that place, like, oh, the smell doesn't matter. You were like, no, it's a really great deal. And it's a really wonderful address.
And it was a great deal, by the way.
There you go. Probably because it smelled bad and they didn't know. Okay. So your mind justified and rationalized. Your mind took over. Your mind said, no, we got to take it. I really need a place to work. This is going to do for now. You're locked into a year-long contract. The place doesn't smell good. We could imagine that happening. Is it true that your voice would no longer be supported by the environment because now you're not in the right environment?
Oh, right.
Can you sense into that? Like if the smell is bad, can you sense that your voice would be cut? Everything would be off, not just your voice.
Yes.
Yeah?
And I can remember times too where it's like the environment seemed to be okay and then it wasn't. Like something changed with the place I was interacting with or something. And I could think back and see how that also impacted the quality of my ability to communicate well in those situations. So I get where you're going with all that.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So now let's go look at the dissonance. So dissonance is where there's automatically a problem. Not your fault, not your problem, like to do anything about, but just to notice that this is where we are going to experience more issue with the voice. Now, add to that the fact that your voice is in an undefined function. So then we have more instability with the voice, right? The voice is in an undefined function. So
Okay.
So it's now, remember, whenever we're looking at a chart, we're only looking at the thing that is the lifetime experience of that being. It's not always like that. There's always going to be conditioning. There's people you're walking through, there's transits, you have life cycles that you're learning about. So the case is that this is not defined, it's conditioned constantly conditioned, right? Okay. So your depth that you are attuned to selectively communicating about, now I'm using keynoting language, yeah, or unconscious quality of the voice, because this is what the voice communicates. Without words, it's frequency. If your body, and so if we look at the body, it's touch, calm. Okay. If your body's off track here, where you're not calm, you're chaotic. You're not getting stimulated in a calming way, soothed, if you will, by the smell. You're getting riled up. You're dysregulated. You don't feel good. Obviously, the quality of the voice not going to be there.
Right.
So you see the difference is, this is where, okay, we need to support the body. It's really important for her communication, for the power in your voice, for your communication to come out correctly, that you're calm and things smell good. So you carry around essential oils if you're going into a place that doesn't smell good, something like that, where you have your tools. Yeah. To help the power behind your voice.
Okay, this helps a lot. I do always need, as you know, to continue to contemplate this and let it like sink into me. But in this moment, I'm resonating with what you are saying, and especially the way you connected the whole calm touch thing, with my body, and the way that can cause essentially a disconnect as well. I definitely have that experience.
Yeah.
When you were saying, like, just the kind of the chaos, right? Like when that comes in, like it definitely does throw me off. I have said that many times. It's like with my body now, I'm just beginning to understand this differently with what you're saying. Like if I haven't eaten, I haven't gotten enough sleep, and I am feeling riled up, my voice is not where it needs to be. And actually that is how I'm feeling even today, because I didn't sleep well last night. So I'm a little like rattled and weird. I'm not calm today. I'm just like trying to catch up on everything is what it feels like all day. So this is so helpful.
So then if we use tone as our miracle cognitive difference, you use it as a diagnostic, as in, okay, this place smells bad, out of here. Oh, I don't smell so good. Okay, shower time, or whatever the case may be. And then you also use it for decisions and for treatments. So aromatherapy, diffusers, whatever, open the window, whatever it is that you need in order to feel calmer in this body, this vehicle. How is the environment actually affecting the state of the environment, affecting your internal circumstances? Internal circumstances, this is how we affect the body. Breathing through the nose, smelling deeply. You don't want to smell something deeply. Obviously, that's not the right smell for you, you see.
Yeah.
There it is. Yay.
Thank you. You're
welcome. All right. So your homework is still the same as far as keynoting. Yours is not too hard, though. You've only got this one. And add these two. Okay. And the moment that it's communication is connected to any strength or any other activation, you need to bring that in too. Okay. So just everybody highlight your throat. This is the homework assignment for Ibrahim, Mandy. If you're continuing on with this experiment, is highlight your throat, highlight your heart. If there's a 26 or a 40, link those in. We're talking about communication this week, the power behind your voice. So that right there, that's one step of gathering data, communication. And then, and the 26 and 40 is because, I'll go and show it to you here visually. 26 and 40, because it is part of the expression mechanism. Hang on. I'll give you this for, where did it go? It's actually up here, maybe. I miss it. I need it somewhere. Oh, here it is. There it is. That's what I want. Okay. There. Mechanisms of expression, the 26 and the 40. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to highlight your communications, both the conscious communication thinking and the unconscious communication and thinking. The moment you see a conjunction, like that, then you know that this is something that you want to keynote in. And anytime you see conjunctions of any planetary activation, I don't care where it is, but you see a conjunction of any planetary activation, okay, now segment it, body and mind. But you see it here, we see at bare minimum that this is something that this genetic lineage has been working on through your bloodline, your ancestral bloodline, my dear, okay? Because communication is conjunct with the nodal environment. So then this is something that genetically speaking, you are really sourcing into, and you're very specifically working on something so intrinsic to the value of how you're here to be yourself in this life, in this world, how to learn what this life is all about, okay? Because it's karmic meaning it's past life, right? This is past, so it's part of your past, genetically speaking. On the personality side, when we link that up, we see it's a conjunction, and this is quite common because Mercury is such a small orbit around the sun and moves quite quickly. You're going to see oftentimes that Mercury and Earth, I keep saying Earth, its essence, the sun, are oftentimes right next to each other. And when they're not right next to each other, they tend to affect each other. You can see that this is conscious communication and thinking is this Mercury affected by the sun there. So that fixing is very much a part of what you're learning to be yourself in your flow about in this life. And then we see the sun there is 4 and 4. Oh, they're exact. But now we go over to the mind side. Same thing here applies. So that same thing that I'm saying about resonance to your brain body system and where you are, the environment that you're in, the resonance principle, here's the control panel. It works on this side as well. So what you're looking at is color 1 in the communication and thinking is not harmonic or resonant to the personality awareness, nor the way that the personality frames what it sees. So then we know we have a challenge, kind of like how the arrow pointing down says challenge and human design is detriment, the challenge. We're looking now at this conscious communication and thinking, not harmonic or resonant with seeing or the way that you are aware. So now if we take it into bigger picture context, we can see that it's a channel. It's fixed. It's a strength. I mean, channel of response. Okay, response, a rhythm, being in the flow. Being in the flow has to do with your response, your availability to respond. If you're not available to respond, and there it is, Veronica, I'm linking it back to what we were talking about when I was recognizing something came out of my mouth and you were like, oh, the openness, when your mind makes decision from the openness and you're not in your flow, is it true that your communication and thinking is off? When you're trying to say something that is not part of your inherent truth or promising to do something that is not something that you're responding to, is it true that your voice has a telltale sign or your thinking is off?
Yeah,
recognize that one?
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I'm, thinking back to other times where, I said yes when I should have said no, that kind of thing.
There it is.
Yeah.
Right there. Mm-hmm. See, you're sensitive, openness, vulnerability. You're subject to, and here's Laveena with her 29 teaching you, hey, that does not work to say yes when your response is not there for it. Right. But I'm just the voice for this. Your own body experience is helping you discover this about yourself in this life and how vital it is that you have to maintain your individual truth because you're the only one who can. You say yes and people go with it. Right. They don't know, even if they might feel like, I might be pushing her buttons a little bit. They're like, she's a big girl. She could do it. Right. So it's up to us to commit to ourselves first. Right.
I will say, Laveena, just as a
Mm,
quick aside, and I so
mm.
appreciate again everything, all the depth that you're sharing with me here.
Yeah.
But I will also say that when I changed my name back in 2019, like I also noticed such a change, right, in how
Yeah.
I understood myself, because it was right at that time that I discovered and started learning about human design and BG5.
Mhm.
So it was always like shocking to me that I never noticed this before. And that's when it really came online for me. So that's just sort of like another layer and aside that I wanted you to know.
Yay. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you again.
You're very welcome.
I'm
Mhm.
gonna hop off. You have a great week.
Okay. Sounds good. You too. Okay. So that being said, remember, whenever we have harmonic traits in interaction, in this example, we're looking at between me, I'm fulfilling my life's work, and here's my life's work, okay, with someone who has the other side of this strength, okay, she's got the 46-6 a couple times. My partner also has a 46-6 himself. And so maintaining the power of caution, my wisdom potential for her, as in, don't say yes to everything. Learn how to go with your response, your availability to respond. There's just an example, a nice little example of how we do that. Now I'm heading from the mental awareness and recognition, because that's where my life's work purpose is fulfilled. Purpose fulfilled through mind, core essence in the 30, in the mandala wheel, right? Learning about mind. She's a learning, she resonates with me. We're both 3, the color level. So the engagement with the right people, right timing, circumstances, events, none of that is in our control. However, when we're aligned, we find the people with whom we can source into as allies within our engagement of living this life experience. So I'm going over to Mandy because Mandy hasn't heard me keynote her body side. And so we're going to do the body real quick, and then we're going to look at the mind and see if we notice anything interesting in recognition, if it's right. Okay. So just keep her informed of what we're doing here. Color 2, harmonic to the environment, resonant with the place. That means then, when you're in a place that is right for you, your voice is going to be stronger. When you are treating your body correctly, your brain body system being online, your voice is going to feel strong and resonate. Your voice, quality of your voice. We're not talking about words that we use, but quality of the voice here. On this side, it's your communication and thinking consciously, psychologically. It's your internal expression of your outer authority. Okay? Foundation of the mind, lifelong learning. This is the expression, all of this together is the expression of your outer authority. That's why communication and thinking is so important to get online. So if we look at it being a 6th color, again, you do not use color keynotes here. We're just looking at resonance principle or harmonic or dissonance. The way that your framing is seeing the power view is harmonic to your personal communication and thinking. So then when you're seeing things from the power view, your communication and thinking, conscious psychological makeup for your outer authority is stronger, we could say. Just works quite well. However, the personality awareness, okay, it's a 1. So with the 1, we're looking at an issue potentially because they're dissonant. If we're not operating in alignment, then this is automatically, wherever you see dissonance, this is automatically going to be a problem. This is automatically going to be an issue. There's already a little bit of a challenge when you're operating in alignment. But when you're not operating in alignment, the sharing of the stories, let's say, instead of waiting for patience and clarity in order to share what you've learned from the experience, now the way that you're aware framing is, if it's skewed, okay, we're emotionally upset, we're skewed, okay, we're taking things way too personal, and so then we get physically needy, and what happens here? Communication and thinking is off. Doesn't work. It won't work. You won't have your power. That's why it's so important to come back to you, find the truth inherent in your physical form, which is this body, this one precious life that this body has an emotional intelligence that needs time, time to process things, time to feel into things, time to feel cyclically into the judgmentation or the appropriateness of whether or not to share the memory or the experience. How's that landing? Everybody get what I'm seeing here?
That makes a lot of sense for me.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. And then I also have my core essence being 56 plus the Jupiter. I get really expansive, sometimes big, I guess you could say. And it's not necessarily like anger big, but it's all of a sudden my voice is really huge, or I have a larger presence about me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for linking up that recognition and awareness. Nice. Okay. So then homework assignment again is to keynote the voice. So getting the voice in alignment with what your power, well, my mind wants to say the power behind the throne of your voice, but it's up here in the ajna. The unconscious quality of your voice, the way that Ra would frame it. Just assessing what makes your voice powerful, what supports your voice in communication with others, the authenticity, the truthfulness, the inherent quality of resonance, harmonic, energetic, or maybe it's dissonant. Maybe it is dissonant. Have you noticed? And what supports it? What helps it? What can you do? And this may not be something that comes from you. You might need to talk to somebody else in order to suss out what this feels like. So I'll leave you to it for this week as far as communicating with each other in the forum, and maybe you meet privately or coach each other through it. And then next week, we'll discuss any follow-ups. Amy wasn't here, so any questions? Just going to check. I
have one question.
Yeah. What questions you have? Perfect.
So as it relates to, you said physically needy, does feeling like I need to be heard qualify for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Anytime you hear your awareness going, I need this, and this exaggerated urge to act, you're stressed out and I need this, you need to do this, I need this, anything needy. Now this is a expressing stream of need, of tribal need for support and physical touch. So you need physical touch. That's not a psychological need. You literally need touch in your life. But when you don't want to be touched, signpost. Okay, not accepting, not okay, this is not cool, whatever the case may be. But anytime you're riled up and you're feeling this emotional upset and you're really, coming on strong, deep breath. Rather than engaging the energy in the outward push, or the inward is just as damaging, way more damaging to you, because when you're compressing that energetic and you're trying to do something with it that it just wants to explode and wants to explode on that person or whatever the case. I need you to do this now. You're just in the unhealthy state, in the distortion field. We project the energy out in an attempt to feel better. And if we do that to a non-emotional person, earlier I was talking about this with Sean, so I would encourage go listen to that, because it's something that I've learned. When in an unhealthy state, what we do is we put it out there or we compress it. Either way, the two extremes, not healthy. So deep breath and feel the feeling, but in that moment, it's maybe not the right time to address it with that person. We need to cool off. We're on the cool side of things. It's going to be way more effective, and we're going to communicate much more clearly when we're not in an emotional charge. And it's hard, I know, to wait. Whatever your tools are. And so tools I usually go into, okay, you're a mouth breather. Is it right? Hang on, tone. Hang on. 1 nose, 2 mouth, 3 nose, 4 mouth. Yes, you're a mouth breather. Breathing deeply through the mouth. Okay, that's a tool. Listening to music, that's a tool. Smells, walking or whatever it is that gets rid of the energy charge, not at the person that you think you need to be heard by in that moment. But coming back, you're always going to have a much higher position in an argument or any situation if you come from the calmer place. The person who is the most angry, yes, you can be heard, but they're not really hearing you because, especially if they're non-emotional, they shut down. And they're not really hearing you because you're not communicating clearly. You may think you're communicating clearly, but you're not really. In the heat of the moment, it's not coming across in the impact that you would really like, that would bring you peace. And so that's why we have to get right with self first when we're emotionally intelligent and the energy is, going through its thing. It needs to go through its thing, its wave frequency, to find the middle ground so that we can come from a place of integrity within, peace within, in order to really, truly get to the bottom of what is required to have an impact with our relational dynamic with that person. Your civilizing effect of your voice. Okay, I say civilization because that's where all the throat gates are, and that's the fulfillment of your life's work, is the manifestation, the fulfillment of the civilizing effect of a human voice on the collective, part of what you're here to get to the bottom of and teach through your storytelling. Okay?
That made so much sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Okay. Checking with other people here. Sachiko, Eva, and Ibrahim. If there's anything that you need, feel free to ask. Raise your hand. Let me know. If not, we are complete. All right. I don't see any questions, any hands raised. For next week, let me see what I have on the menu here. Perceptual coaching mastery. So I kind of, because we had that second hour where we had new people come in, I kind of continued the communication mastery into perceptual coaching. So we will continue the conversation next week where I am going to help you develop mastery in your way of attuning within the BG5 framework to enhance not only your personal awareness, but particularly to help the client be aware and recognize how to align. Your perceptual awareness of the other is so important.